Okay, in the previous class, we have seen several uh, engineering devices such as nozzle, diffuser, compressor, turbines, and their uh, thermodynamic analysis as a open system. We have seen that, and we have applied uh, mass balance and energy balance for those devices. Few of the devices are left out, and we are going to cover in today's lecture. So the next device that we often incorporate, we often uh, see in widely engineering devices are throttling valves. Okay, these throttling valves are any kind of flow restricting devices that cause significant pressure drop in the fluid. So let's suppose this is your inlet, this is your outlet, and these throttling valves are made up of some adjustable valves or porous plug, or it is made up of capillary tube. So because of these geometrical constraints, the flow that is happening from one to two, uh, so your pressure drastically decreases. The another characteristics of uh, throttling valves, like in turbines, they actually produce work while dropping the pressure. We have seen that. Okay, we have seen what we have seen in turbines. In order to move the shaft, uh, the things, if the shaft moves, work out, we get some sort of workout in along with the pressure change. So P2 is obviously lower, but we often accompany with some work output in the turbines. But in the throttling valves, we don't get we do not get work outputs. Also, these devices are not accompanied with any sort of um, heat transfer. Okay, so these two things happens with throttling valves. We are not going to go into the details of what's happening inside, because that is of that is the concern of another advanced topics that you might guys might be studying in, why things are so. But we need to know there is something called Joule-Thomson effect or Joule-Thomson coefficient, or mu, which plays a role in order to keep the things in this manner, such as the pressure drops when it undergoes uh, this process. And this process also accompanies one more important criteria, that the pressure drop in the fluid is often accompanied by a large drop in temperature. Actually, it's often, not always. Okay, but in general, uh, it accompanies with large drop of temperature. So because of this these throttling devices are commonly used in refrigeration cycles and air conditioning systems. Okay, so the temperature here drops significantly since pressure decreases, so temperature also decreases significantly. And you can actually freeze things here in order of you may get in general trend, if you talk about refrigerating systems, you often get temperature differences of 30 to 40 degrees C. Very large temperature differences you will see across this throttling devices. And this happens based on some conditions called Joule-Thomson effect or Joule-Thomson coefficient. So we are not going to study that, just we want to know that uh, these what are these things. So mu is something called Joule-Thomson coefficient, which is nothing but the slope, uh, dot e by dou p at constant enthalpy. So essentially, at for TP in TP plot, we have some iso lines. So these iso lines are isoenthalpic lines, H1, H2. So there is something called inversion temperature. We are not going to do into details. Just I'm letting you guys know, making you guys aware that these things are there. So something called inversion temperature. Uh, so towards the right, things are the temperature decreases, and towards left, temperature increases. This is something happens, and at these inversion temperatures, your dp by dt by dp is 0. So those things are there, but anyways, we'll leave this behind. Not talk much about it. If you guys are interested, you can actually read that thing. Okay, so essentially we come up with something called, since there are no heat interaction and there are no work interaction, so for open system, energy uh, balance equation boils down to this particular equation. This comes out to be H2 is equal to H1. It turns out that the enthalpy remains constant in this process. H is equal to H1, H2, and these are equal across these devices. So if we talk about, so this is straightforward, right? We what we have done, q something, or if we talk in terms of small q's, so q minus w is equal to m h2 minus m h1, and all these things are 0. So this turns out to be h1 is equal to h2, since no other so the mass flow rate is you have a single stream here, so h2 is equal to h1. So you come up with this particular equation, and this has a very large uh, implication on engineering devices. We can again write in terms of internal energy and the flow work. So from here we can deduce that the sum is kept to be constant in isoenthalpic process. What does it mean? So it means that if your flow work decreases, your internal energy increases, and if your flow work increases, your internal energy decreases, right? So it works in that way. So essentially the sum of these two quantities remains constant in this throttling valve devices. But this is this thing is not always true. So temperature, so there is a decrease or increase in temperature. Okay, so there is a variability in temperature across this, but this is not true for ideal gases. For isenthalpic processes, ideal gases does not follow, um, the temperature does not change during isenthalpic process. Okay, why is it so? Because we have seen that, so since H1 is equal to H2, and for ideal gases, we have seen that H is only a function of temperature for ideal gases only. Okay, so if so, your temperature should also remains constant. Okay, so for ideal gases, this expression is also a strong um, implication on devices. We'll see. Okay, but if it is not ideal, it would certainly undergo some sort of temperature changes, and we can actually make some positive or advantageous work out of it, or advantageous refrigeration out of it or something. Okay. So we'll not take up numerical right now. So what we will do, we'll try to finish things first, and then we'll come back with numericals today. Okay, the next device I want to talk about is the mixing chambers. So the most common example of mixing chambers, and this is open type system again, is your shower. So in your shower, what you do, you have a hot water inlet and you have a cold water inlet, and it actually combines somewhere some mixes, and you will get some optimal uh, heated fluid through the shower. Okay, so essentially these devices are those kind of devices where two or more moving fluid stream mixes itself. Okay. Okay, these are called mixing chambers, and one example of mixing chamber is the T elbow or Y elbow. You may encounter these kind of elbows. So elbow is essentially your mixing chamber. Okay, and now when we talk about the mass and energy analysis across this mixing chamber. Okay, so your overall equation, what we have, so E in, so obviously first mass is always conserved. So let's suppose this is your one inlet, two is also inlet, one and two is inlet, and this is your three, and this is your outlet. So let's suppose this is your control volume. So this is your control volume. So thing is coming in from 1 and 2 and going out from 3. So I can always write m1 dot plus m2 dot is equal to 3 dot. Okay, total mass in is equal to total mass out. So this is your mass balance equation. And energy, if we talk about energy balance, so E in minus E out is equal to dE by dt again. So since all these in this particular chapter, so far we have considered steady condition. So this goes away. So there are no net change in. So I assume that things have approached towards steadiness. So there are no transient condition right now, opening or closing conditions. So the flow has been settled enough, and after that I'm talking about things. Okay, once the flow has been settled, so this there is no change in control volume in this particular thing. So E in is equal to E out is equal to 0. So what is my E in? So E in, again, we assume that since things are isolated, means your insulation, your pipes are insulated, things are insulated, so heat interaction is not is 0, and also work interaction is also 0. Okay, there are no work that is happening here, no additional work. Obviously flow work is happening here, so that is why enthalpy will come. Okay, so what was my equation? So E in is nothing but m dot theta, and what is my theta? Theta is uh, h1 plus v square by 2 plus gz, or again we estimate, we assume that my kinetic energy and potential energies are negligible change in kinetic energy and potential energy. So one thing I want to actually add, as what I have commented about this enthalpy for turbines and compressors, the enthalpy value is much greater than the velocities. So I want to actually slightly add that actually the change in enthalpy is much greater than equal to the change in the velocities that is occurring across 1 to 2. Okay, and change. So I just forgot the word change last time. So keep in mind that the change in the enthalpies are higher as compared to the change in velocities and change in elevations. That is what we are going to always talk about in change. Okay, the alone absolute value of enthalpies we cannot compare, obviously, and the change we will talk about. Okay. Okay, so here the change in kinetic energy and potential energies are zero as compared to the change in enthalpies. So this goes away. So first stream M1H1 plus M dot 2 H2. This must be, these are ins, and what are my outs? M dot 3 H3, right? And what is M3, M dot 3? So again you can write M1 plus M2. So you can write M1 H1 plus M2 H2 is equal to M1 plus M2 H3. Or also you can use this one. Anything is up to your comfort. Okay, so this is written here. This also. So this is your mixing chamber. Energy analysis you can do very easily. Okay. Again, we'll keep this aside. These numericals. We'll finish our theories first. Okay, the next device that is very important is the heat exchanger devices. So heat exchangers you will more study in your heat transfer, heat and mass transfer courses, and it is very widely used in engineering applications such as your car radiators, in in condensers, in your power plants. So heat exchangers are everywhere. So heat exchangers are the devices where two moving fluid streams exchanges heat without mixing. And this is the keyword which you should keep in mind. So heat exchangers is basically a subset of your mixing chambers. But in mixing chambers, you have a direct contact. You have a direct contact of two fluids. But here in heat exchangers, there are no direct contact, or there are no mixing as such. Okay, so two streams of fluids. Let's suppose I'm considering this particular example. You have a pipe that contains fluid A. The fluid is flowing like this from right to left, and on top of it, concentrically it another fluid passes on top of it. Okay, it's kind of on top of it, and it mixes and it comes out. Okay, so they are not actually uh, mixing with each other. Okay, you can see there is a clear cut reason there. Okay, are you getting this figure? So let's suppose you have a pipe and one fluid is flowing, and you have a concentric pipe, or maybe in this manner. But I don't. Okay, or maybe things are wrapped around in that way. Okay, things are wrapped around in that way, and another fluid is moving on top of it, or by wrapping on it, or concentrically, which is shown here. Okay, so what is the advantage of it? So it during this process, fluid, if let's suppose your fluid A is at 20 degrees C and it is at lower temperature, and fluid B, it is at higher temperature, and we need to cool this temperature. And let's in general it happens like this is your cold water at low temperature, and this is your steams are taken like this, and steams are flown through this particular region, and when the fluid passes, it takes away heat from, so so this low temperature fluid or water takes the heat from the higher fluid, and it its temperature slightly increases, and this fluid temperature, which is our concern, it has lower temperature after exit. So these kind of things you will encounter in heat exchangers, okay, in your steam power plant or in condensers, car radiators, and also want to cool the fluid, or you want to heat up your fluid. Both way you can do. Okay, either you can heat up, you can, depending upon your need, how you want to design it. Okay. Okay, the simplest form of heat exchanger is a double tube, also called tube and shell heat exchanger, which is shown over here. This is also called tube and shell. So this gray area is your tube, and on top of it, concentrically, it has been cased. That is called shell. So tube and shell, it is also known as tube and shell heat exchanger. So again, if we want to do the mass and energy analysis, so mass is straightforward. So let's suppose this is your 1, and this is your 2, and this is your 3, and this is your 4. Okay, and you consider your system as control volume as this one. Okay. You have considered your control volume as this one. So what's happening here? So one thing, fluid fluid, some fluid, let's suppose water. So MW is flowing and MW is coming out, and M refrigerant or steam is coming in from 3, and steam is coming out from 4. Okay, so straightforward, it is straightforward that there are no mass losses. So whatever M is coming in is coming out in the control volume. Also, another mass, that is M3, is coming in is equal to M4 is coming out. So these two are straightforward. Okay, and when you do the sorry, energy analysis, okay, so we expect that there are no heat transfers across this control volume, what I have chosen. So Q across. So obviously the heat transfer is happening between these two tube and shell, but not to the environment. So as a overall control volume, since I'm choosing in this way, so overall heat transfer is not happening, and overall work transfer is also not happening in this case. Okay, as what we have seen in mixing chambers as well. So in energy analysis, what we can do. So m dot, again, theta can be written as h1 v1, again v's and kinetic energy and potential energies are again change in kinetic and potential energy are again think as negligible as compared to the enthalpies of the change in the enthalpy of the system. Okay, and we can safely assume that. So m dot h1 is the energy with the first fluid that is entering plus. So what is my thing? So energy in is equal to energy out at a steady condition. Again, I needless to say, at steady conditions it is happening. I am not talking about unsteadiness right now, otherwise some other terms will come. So steady terms, so dE by dt is 0. So it boils down to energy in is equal to energy out. Energy in is by first fluid and third fluid. So m1 h1, m3 h3. Okay, so 1 and 3 are coming in. So m1 h1, m3 h3 is equal to 2 and 4 are coming out. So m2 h2 plus m4 h4 are coming out. So yeah, this is pretty straightforward. With that, you can go ahead with your numericals now. You can actually design things. So what is so good about the designing things? Yes, you can design, actually you can actually control your mass flow rates, and in order to control your mass flow rates, you can actually design what temperature you want. So since h4 can be calculated, so h4 is associated with some temperatures, let's suppose T4, and I want this T4 to be in certain temperature range, 20 to 30 degrees C. So what should my these mass flow rates I should keep in my heat exchangers, so that my temperature that comes out of for fluid A or B, it turns out to be in some range, right? You can actually design now, right? It's in your hand. As an engineer, you can actually design your heat exchangers. So this thermodynamics course is so powerful that if at all you guys are going to work in thermal industries or refrigeration, or somewhere, uh, you guys need to know thermodynamics from scratch, and while designing also, you need to actually should have the knowledge of thermodynamics. Okay. Tell me, anybody unmuted himself? Okay. Again, what so far we have done is, I have taken my control volume as a whole. Okay, when I am doing my energy conservation, right? So I am fine with that, and I can safely do that. And I can choose any control volume. Either I can choose whole, or I can actually choose my this one. But the implication of this is this control volume that I have chosen as a whole, that I can easily apply my energy conservation. Okay. But whenever sometimes they may ask that what is the heat transfer that is occurring from fluid 1 to 2. So it has specifically asked heat transfer, the amount of heat transfer that is occurring from fluid 1 to 2. So in order to account that this heat transfer, to account this type of heat transfer, you need to take the control volume or my system as only one fluid, and this will allow your system to get to know that how much heat has been transferred from this control volume. But here, since heat that is being coming in is coming in from 1 to 2, it has been taken from 2 to 1. Sorry, from 1 to 2, it is coming. Whatever things are coming, it will be taken back. So things are zero here. I mean, as a overall control volume, we will not see this interaction, right? We will not see interaction, but heat interaction will be evident in this particular case when I choose my control volume in this manner, right? So here the entire heat exchange will be 0, and here heat exchange will be a finite thing, and you can actually estimate your heat transfer from this case. How? Yes, it is again pretty straightforward. So let's suppose this is my 1, this is my 2, right? I need to ask what my heat transfer that was occurring from 1 to 2. Okay, so I can apply my energy equation on this particular control volume. So I can write, so now my heat transfer is there, 1 to 2 is there, okay, plus 1 is coming in, so M1 H1, and what is going out is M2 H2. That's all. So you know these things, or it may be given, so you can actually estimate your heat transfer. Q1 to 2 can be written as M1 H1, sorry, M2 H2 minus M1 H1. You can actually estimate that. And this is the same heat transfer, that heat has been transferred from higher to lower fluid. And if it is asked how much, this much had retained the heat, so this is the same amount of Q21. It has retained this pink fluid. Okay. So the only key point to remember, you guys should be aware that if you are doing the overall energy conservation, you should take the control volume in this manner. And if there's some heat transfer that it is asked, you should account the heat transfer from particular fluid to particular fluid. You can actually estimate in this manner in order to choose your control volume in this particular fashion. Okay, we'll take up this example quickly in 5 minutes. Before that, to or maybe what I can do, this I'll take up in the next class, unsteady flow process. And okay, the next second law of thermodynamics I will take up maybe in next week. So, and these are the uh, several topics I'm going to cover. Probably I will talk about in 2 minutes here. Pipe and duct flows are also uh, uh, often encountered in engineering devices such as your condenser pipes, or you may transport or some fluid from one part to another part, and uh, you want actually some, you don't want any heat transfer to occur and all sorts of things. So you can actually think of a pipe with all sorts of work that is happening, shaft work, electrical work. And when this happens, and when you are entering from 1 to 2, you actually get uh, higher temperature this side and lower temperature this side. So all these things you may, depending upon your need actually. If you want your temperature to be higher, you can actually uh, put a shaft or electrical wiring. If you want things to be the temperature to be lowered, as in case of your condensers or so, you can actually put a what you can say, heat exchanger on top of this, and you can actually estimate in this way. So all sorts of things can be done uh, during pipe or a duct flow, and its implications are in refrigeration systems, uh, right, in heating your heating your homes or cooling your homes. If you have central air conditioning, you need to uh, bring the hot air or the cold air from one place to another place. So there it uh, actually works, this pipe flow and the duct flows. Nothing more to say in this. We'll talk about the unsteady flow process. So far, let me make you aware that what is this energy analysis for unsteady flow process. So far we have talked about things are in steady in nature. So E in, E out is equal to dE CV by dt, and we actually ignore this as saying that the things are steady. But now in this thing, this is not zero. This has some finite value. Okay. So what do you mean by finite value of control volume that is changing? So you can think of some example. Let's suppose you have a supply line, and you have a supply line of, let's suppose, LPG gas that is flowing in your kitchens. Okay, and you want to fill your cylinders. Okay, these cylinders, let's suppose this is yours. Uh, this is your cylinder, gas cylinder, and there are several cylinders in another homes, or maybe in industry. So you have a supply line, and it when so there is a check valve here, control valve here, and when you open that, it starts filling your gas cylinder. So the filling process uh, of this type of things are often associated with unsteady flow process. Okay, and we can actually estimate the energy analysis of these kind of filling processes. Okay, that is also important to know. Since your control volume, initially your mass was 0, and at 2 state you have some finite mass, or it is filled with some mass. Okay, so your change in mass in control volume is actually some finite value. Okay? These sort of things we'll see in the next class. So let's take one quick example of uh, of a heat exchanger example. Let's suppose. Okay, so refrigerant 134 is to be cooled by water in condenser. A refrigerant enters the condenser with mass flow rate of 6 kg per minute at 1 MPa at 70 degrees C. Okay, so this is your refrigerant that is coming in with properties 70 degrees C 1 MPa, and it goes from here to here, and it comes with lower temperature. Okay, and the water at 15 degrees C, it is being circulated on top of it without mixing. Okay, the cooling water enters 300 kPa and 50 degrees C, leaves at 25 degrees C. Neglect any pressure drops. Determine the mass flow rate of the cooling water required to do so. Okay, in order to maintain this 70 degrees C, to keep it down to 35 degrees C, what is my mass flow rate of water that we need to estimate, and the heat transfer rate from the refrigerant to water, how to proceed it. So please do it. This is very straightforward, right? So somebody do it, and we have 5 minutes, and let's, you guys do it and let me know. And these small questions, you should practice. I mean, unless you practice these things, because uh, you may get some difficulties once you make your hands dirty, and then also and then only you will be able to understand the things more clearly. Okay, once you get your hands dirty, and that is why my ideology, my philosophy of teaching is to make the numericals in front of you. Okay, okay, so can somebody comment how to proceed with this?
Sir, mass flow rate of refrigerant is given.
Haha.
So, so by the formula that M1H1 plus
Mm-hmm.
M3H, by that formula that
Haha.
we can get the mass flow rate of water,
Okay.
and the H1 we can get from the table.
Very
So,
nice. Very nice. Very nice. So who is this?
ohm, sir.
Okay, again Om. So except Om, can somebody can some other guy can comment? So I know Om can do this, and few others, but it would be a good exercise. So I'm actually missing my classroom teaching. So I mean, you guys can ask any seniors. So how much numericals I really actually go through when I was actually teaching in offline mode. I mean, one to one. So I used to make so many numericals, and even I used to bring some students on the board, and we try to make it. But here I cannot do anything. Okay, Mukesh Chavda. Who is this Mukesh Chavda? So can you comment? Mukesh Chavda is not there. Rohan Nagani. No. Shlok Desai. No, this is bad. I mean, I thought you guys are attending my lecture. It seems you guys are not here. Yagna Patel. Oh my god. So I Parth Patil.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so Parth Patil, can you comment?
Sir, can you display the question once?
Yes.
Sir, here we will use formula of m dot 1
Mm-hmm.
h1 plus m dot 3 h3 equals to m dot h2 or m dot m2 dot h2 plus m4 dot h4 means
Okay.
uh,
Mm.
here we will use simply the heat exchanging
Mm-hmm.
formula.
Mm-hmm.
So at one point this R134 at 70 degrees Celsius would be the third point means
Mm-hmm.
the
Right.
m dot 1 would be 6 kg per minute.
Okay, so m1 dot and m4 dot, right, are same.
Yeah.
So we will keep it here and we call it refrigerant. And we can write mh1 minus h1 minus h4, or m2 I can write m water,
Yes.
h2 minus h3. This is the formula. So m1r I know, h1 h4, the temperatures and pressure, since the pressure drop is neglected, so at the
Yes.
same pressure 1 MPa, I can actually estimate my h1 and h4. Thank you, Parth Patil. So these
Okay.
things are known at the table. You can
Yes, sir.
seek from table, and h2 and h3 also you can seek from table. So are you guys comfortable in reading the tables? That is my question, is because table is so important that every time you need to check here and there, tables everywhere, tables. Okay, so m dot w can be estimated. Good. Now the second question is the heat transfer rate from the refrigerant to water. Now how to proceed? Parth again. So this is your part A. How to proceed with part B, and here you have you have chosen your control volume as a whole. All right, but for part B, what to do? I've already talked about. Can you comment? अच्छा, मुकेश चावड़ा जी के पास, आपके पास माइक नहीं लग रहा. Okay.
About part B, I'm not sure.
हाँ हाँ.
I'm not able to understand. So I'm
Okay.
sorry that I will not give that much
Okay,
answer.
कोई बात नहीं, मैं बता देता हूँ अभी. So before I ask, let me ask few more guys. Pratik Dodia. So it seems I became more lenient for you guys. So I don't want. Can I audible? So you are not audible, Mukesh. So being lenient doesn't mean you should not learn. So as long as you guys are learning, I don't care. I mean, if you guys are listening or not, if you are good enough, you can actually read your book and you can actually learn. I am here just to support you guys. Okay, not so. Yeah, fine. So okay, let me proceed with the second part, that is the heat transfer rate from the refrigerant to water. So for that, I have already told that I need to make my control volume as this only. So this is your control volume. Okay, and now when you choose this as a control volume, now you are in a shape, or you are in a step towards writing that how much heat has been transferred from refrigerant to water. Okay, because when the red part is your control volume, you will not actually see this happening, because inside the control volume what is happening you cannot see. Okay, but now since your control volume is limited to the fluid refrigerant fluid, okay, this much, now you are able to see as your Q is being transferred from the control surface. Now this control surface Q dot out can be written as Q dot out, uh, or you can write it this way: m dot refrigerant h1 is equal to nothing but m dot r h4 plus Q dot out. So this is what you need to estimate. That's it. Okay, very straightforward. Or this can also be done alternatively. This can also be done by choosing the control volume as water enclosed control volume. Okay, in that case your formula would be Q dot in plus m dot water h1 is equal to m dot water h2, that is out. So this is your, and this both will give you the same result actually. So with this, I hope you guys are able to understand. And if you are not listening, I'm fine with that. But as long as you learn things, I'm fine with it. Okay, connection issue है, कोई बात नहीं. Okay, then I may take attendance. Stop.